I'll start. Hello there, guys. So, welcome to the next episode of the Earn Education podcast. Nathan and I today are going to talk about the reasons you're not getting results with your clients. And this is a common theme that Nathan and I have sort of cropped up within the industry now over the last maybe 6 months to a year. The transformations not being as, how can we put it, as good as what they could have been if it was a fat loss or a muscle building transformation that the coach is trying to achieve.
Cool. So we're going to give you five reasons, the main five reasons we think. Stay tuned to the end of the podcast because the one that we think is the most important will come last. So the first one I'll kick us off with is your lack of knowledge. I'm not trying to sound patronizing either here, but coaches, or maybe not say you, but coaches' lack of knowledge around fat loss. Yeah. So obviously, like we all know that you need to be in a calorie deficit, yeah, but we all sometimes struggle with, and me and Ali have been there as well, with knowing, thinking about like, is this client actually in a deficit? Do they need to be in more of a deficit? Do they not need to be in more of a deficit? Am I confident saying that to them? So that's kind of your lack of knowledge or lack of confidence around putting someone in a deficit. Yeah, if I'm completely honest. So it's one of them where we all know, and please, please, please take this point that if a client's weight ain't changing, they're not in a deficit, period. Yeah. So don't be kind of conned into thinking that your client is telling you the truth. We're going to use that as one of the points as well, because we'll jump straight into that one. But the like your clients withholding the truth is probably this one of the biggest ones. Yeah. Like probably not the most important or the one that we see the most of, but it's literally the one where coaches fall for it all the time. Yeah, we've seen that time and time again, haven't
Yeah.
we?
I think
Yeah,
everyone wants to believe the client because nobody wants to think the client's not telling the truth. Nobody wants to think that the client doesn't necessarily trust them to tell the truth or that they're pulling the wool over the night. And the client probably doesn't want to admit to the coach that they can't stick to it. And again, this is where understanding things where, as Nathan just said then about the calorie deficits, like that, that's just a fact. And when we understand that the client was sticking to X amount of calories that you put them on, and you're very confident that they are in a deficit, they should be losing. Now, something that I think as well that's a big problem is because you may be on more calories and you've never had to go to such low calories, you think your clients shouldn't have to go to such low calories. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So I'll use Nathan and myself as examples when because me and Nathan both bodybuild, but we're not bodybuilding coaches. We coach Gen Pop. And that's how we built our businesses. But I think Nathan's probably dieted down to step on stage around about 2.5, 2.6. And I think that's roughly what I was last time I stepped on stage. Now people think, how would you diet down on such on such high calories? It's because me and Nathan are robots when it comes to prep. We never miss a beat. We do exactly what's needed. We've also built a lot of muscle over time. And me and Nathan were also assisted, which also helped the situation as well. But for Gen Pop men who may be the same height as me and Nathan, Nathan's only a little bit taller than me, even though he thinks he's a lot taller than me. They might have to go to 1,800 calories or 1,600 calories to get to the same condition that Nathan and I did. So we can't treat everyone based off our own experiences, what we've been through individually. And this is why I think coaches all need to go through a transformation because your food might have to go lower than what you thought it had to go. And again, when you experience that and you've experienced that, you have to make these big adjustments to the calories that you've been on so regularly over a period of time, you start to realize what it might take for a Gen Pop client who's not got as much muscle mass as you, who doesn't train as hard as you, and has not got the same experience as you, what they may have to go to. And it's all about that putting someone in a calorie deficit. And then if the calories are getting low, having a conversation with the client saying, you're going to have to push your calories to a certain point here to get the result. Are you willing to do that? Or if not, let's put you to a maintenance phase. Let's bring your calories up to a little bit to surface, put a little bit more muscle mass on you. So when you diet down again, you might not have to go as low. But unfortunately, most people have to go to lower than what they want to go to.
Yeah, 100%. So that's lack of knowledge around fat loss is number one. Number two was clients with withholding the truth. And Ali's just touched on it slightly there, where like expectation setting as a coach is massive, which is what Ali's just basically said. Yeah. And sometimes that is come across in a way of that the coach is scared of telling the client the truth. Yeah. So, like, for example, the good thing that we always utilize and we tell all our coaches that we mentor to do and set to the clients is like Ali's just said, you've got to paint a picture for that client and say, are you willing to commit to that? And are you willing to sacrifice X to get to your goal? Yeah. So, like, for example, if it was Ali, it'd be like, right, cool, mate, are you willing to give up your weekends? Yeah. And stop being social because you want to get shredded? Are you willing to go low calorie? And are you willing to do daily cardio? Let's just say that's what Ali had to do. Yeah. Because he was at that point where he needed to push that little bit more. And then it's kind of like, are you willing to do that? What I've just said, yes or no? Let me know. And if the client says no, you're like, cool, right? Well, we're probably not going to get shredded because that's what it takes, but we can maybe get you a little bit leaner, or we can just go to maintenance, like Ali's just used that example there. So it's don't be scared of telling your client the truth. Yeah. Like you should be the authority. You are the authoritative figure who needs to map out and give them a clear strategy and game plan protocol, whatever you want to call it, to get to their goal. And you've got to ask them, are they willing to adhere to that? Yeah. If they say, yeah, that's your green light, innit? You go all in. You just keep slamming the hammer down and banging the same drum as I always say. So super duper important point, and that's kind of number three, should we say?
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just going to go off on this one a little bit in regards to like coaches don't live in cuckoo land thinking it's not going to be hard for your clients as well. Like when you're trying to hit new levels of body weight, never even mind body fat when we're talking about that. If you're going from a client who's 270 pounds down to 200 pounds, they're going to feel tired. Like tiredness, fatigue is part and part of the process of getting results. I think there's too many things of your clients can feel great going through a fat loss transformation and the results are extreme. I don't know anyone who's got extremely lean or just lost a lot of body fat who's not felt shit at some point, or has not felt tired, or has not felt hungry, has not been short with the partner, feels like they're missing out and got FOMO because they're not socializing much. Like, unfortunately, that's part of the process. And what people need to understand is it's also the client's fault that they've got themselves into that position initially. So as a coach, you shouldn't feel guilty for telling the client what they need to do because it's the client's fault who got them to 270 pounds. It's not your fault. You're trying to help them get to a body weight and a body fat percentage that will make them feel good in the future. And it's a lot of long-term thinking. So it's like short-term suffering for long-term gain. So me and Nathan talk about like I'm going to put my dog through like a puppy school, and it's 4 weeks of intensive work for Kobe. And it's going to be hard work for him. And he's not going to be living with us. But then 4 weeks of him trained very, very intensely means that me and Charlotte are going to have 12 years of an amazing, hopefully longer than 12 years, but 12 years of a great, well-behaved dog, because that short, intense blast has now led to long-term results. And that's how you want to look at results to your clients. It's like that short-term hard work is going to set the foundations for them to be able to build on top of the progress that they've made.
Yeah, and I think that rolls into our next kind of point, number four, which is coaches who are too scared to push the clients.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because we see this quite a lot. These next two are probably the main 2 points where coaches can't push the clients. They're scared to. One, in my opinion, one, it's because they've never been there themselves. Yeah. And two, maybe because they are a health conscious coach, right? I kind of get the health conscious coach, right? I get it, right? But what you've got to overcome in your head, if you're that type of coach, should we say? I'm not saying that that's a bad type of coach either, but if you're that type of coach and you know you are, and you're listening to this and you're going, and that triggered you what I just said, then that means it's you. So if it did, and you're thinking like, oh, well, that's me. What do I need to do? You've got to think that if your client is telling you that they want to get to X, Y, and Z, which could mean that they have to compromise the health, should we say, for a select period of time, then that's okay because they're wanting you to push them to that extreme. As long as you can get them out the back of it and coach them out the back of it, there is nothing wrong, as we call it, is the most important part of the journey. So what you've got to think about is you've got to think about the way that you internally process that, because at the minute your perception around it is that it's bad, right? But I will tell you to flip your perception and flip the script on it and think of it in a way like I've just explained. That the client is telling you that they're wanting to get there. So you've got to have the ability to push them there, but you've also got to have the ability to get them out the back of it as well. So don't be afraid to push people. People are there to be pushed. Yeah. And people buy into you because they potentially want you to challenge and push them. So that's your job. Yeah. They're giving you the green flag.
I think just to add on to that as well, mate, because you say all the time about like restrictions not a bad thing, and coaches need to get this into the head, like restrictions not a bad thing, to restrict your clients not a bad thing. because it's going to teach them how to be more flexible in the future. But something else, what you just mentioned then in regards to, I'm trying to think now. What did we talk about then? What were you talking about? It was a good
Well,
thing.
when that happens.
Oh, oh, the clients are going to do it anyway. So this sort of thing. So like, the client's going to want to get to that goal anyway, but you'd much rather them do it under your guidance, where
Hmm.
you are a little bit more health conscious. So you're not going to make them do stupid shit like potentially buy the Manjaro pen or eat under 1,000 calories or do excessive amounts of cardio. You're going to guide them to that goal, which is still a little bit extreme in regards to the measurements, but in a much safer place, a safer way. So what we've got to understand is clients are going to do whatever it takes to get to that goal, and they normally want the easiest and fastest way to do that, which is normally not the best way. And as a coach, if you are more health conscious, or any coach in general, really, we should always be thinking what's the best way to get to our client from a health perspective, but also from a time efficiency perspective. But as I said, if you are one of them coaches a little bit more nervous, the client will leave you if you're not getting to the goal. And then they will try and find the quickest way. Or they might go to another coach who won't give a shit about their health, won't give a shit about their health on the rebound aspect of it as well. And then the
Yeah,
client's going to come back to you in a lot worse position. So if you just make sure you've got the ability as yourself as a coach to push people to the levels of that what they need, and then make sure you guide them and teach them the way out of it in a reverse, then you're going to be doing your job tenfold better than what other coaches are going to do, or just letting the clients do it at their own accord.
100%. And that this kind of leads into our last one, which I think is the most important, that you can't, coaches cannot relate to the client, right? So, for example, like every client is completely individual. I think Joe Jeffrey taught me a term of biological individuality, which
Mhm.
basically means everyone's got their own individual biology. Yeah, so everyone's fucking different in some way, shape, or form. People are similar in some ways, but different in others.
Mhm.
Yeah, as a coach, we've got to coach everyone individually, where some people may fall into similar brackets, but you've got to be able to relate to the bracket that they fall into. So, for example, if your client, sorry, is a mum of three, a mum of three, a mum with three children, should I say, a mum with three children who has a full-time job, she's divorced, she has limited time, blah, blah, blah. You get the picture there, right? You shouldn't be coaching them like a fucking prep client. Yeah. Because if you are a prep coach, you probably won't be marketing in a way where you get these clients in. Hopefully not anyway. If you are, your marketing's wrong. Yeah. But you shouldn't be coaching them as a prep client. Like if you throw the kitchen sink at them, the term I always use is they're gonna throw it back. Yeah. And they're gonna feel overwhelmed from the start. They're gonna feel like a failure because they're gonna fail. Yeah. And then they're gonna fucking leave within the first frigging month, or they're going to have a really slow, painful process, and you are as well as a coach because they're going to be a fucking nightmare client. Yeah, so you've got to be able to relate to them. You've got to be able to understand where they're currently at and understand what the first two or three things this person needs. Right? Is it just literally they just need help with the nutrition to start with? Training and all that other stuff can wait. Do you need to zone in on the nutrition at first for the first month and get them prepping food, getting them organized, get them tracking, getting them weighing the foods, just the simple shit? Is that all you need to do for this client at the start? Cool, well, just zone in on that. Do you know what I mean? So it is about relating to the client and understanding that they are completely individual. They're a Gen Pop person. They're not a fucking prep client. They're not a photo shoot client. They don't know anything or very much. So you've got to teach them. You've got to educate them. You've got to meet them where they're at.
I think that's important in regards to like meeting them where they're at, because that client as well has probably heard loads of shit, loads of really poor advice. And if you start going really extreme with the approach, you're not now really unraveling all that poor advice that they've heard. And as I said, as a coach, and me and Nathan both believe in this, like we've got to make sure we're educating our clients along the journey of what they want to achieve. So that means starting from the start at sometimes, which might mean, okay, look, I want you to get out and go for a walk in the morning if that's possible, because most people can get up half an hour early and go for a walk to start the day off a little bit more positive. But if that, as you said, if that client's got three kids, that might not be possible. But just trying to make sure they can go out for a walk at some point, which might need to be lunchtime for them. So again, it's like you're not just trying to dictate saying this is how you need to live your life, as if they were a bodybuilding client or a plyometry client, where it's like every sort of like process is mapped out to the minute of a day-to-day schedule. Real life happens, and I think sometimes coaches need to understand real life a little bit more, because we don't live in the real world in regards to what we experience. Because especially if you're an online coach, you can eat whenever you want, you can train whenever you want. You get up whenever you want and you can go to bed whenever you want. Most people who work a 9 to 5 don't have them luxuries where they can't train whenever they want because they don't work 9 to 5. They also have to manage getting to the gym, training around busy times. Because again, that's something coaches need to get into the head. It's like you can't put a tricep at 6 o'clock in a pure gym. That is an absolute recipe for disaster. But what you might be able to do to get some kind of still metabolic stimulus is maybe do a drop set
Mm.
or maybe do some isometric holds if that's what the client needs. But you get the gist of it. You can't go through 3 machines when a really busy gym is, but you can stay on one machine and maybe do some kind of metabolic work with that client. So again, really relating to the client and asking the right questions to find where that client's at. Because at the same time, even though they might be a gem pop, but they might be a little bit more advanced than another gem pop client. So again, you don't want to underwhelm them, but it all comes down to making sure you're asking the right questions.
Yeah, and I think with asking the right questions, it's funny you say that because we're just about to touch on it. But it's like asking your client what they're willing to commit to and what they can maximally commit to is super
Yeah.
important. Because, for example, say if you go like, can you hit 10,000 steps a day? No, I can't. I can hit maximum 8. Sweet, right. Well, I'm not going to set you fucking 10 then, am I?
Hmm.
So I'm going to set you 8, right? But then how would you get around someone only doing 8,000? Maybe you'd add a weighted vest in, yeah? Maybe they'd do 2 or 3,000 of them steps to the weighted vest. Maybe you'd go, can you do 15 minutes of cardio as well on that day?
Yeah.
Like maybe 2 days, 3 days out of the 7. Well, yeah, I can probably squeeze that. Sweet, right? Well, just do that and let's make it hit training where you do minute on, minute off. Yeah. So they've got the burning more calories. You get the gist. It's just you're the fucking problem solver,
Yeah.
but you've got to relate to the problem.
Yeah, you've got
Yeah.
to think outside the box sometimes. Like, 'cause I've got a client exactly what you just said then, literally signed up 2 weeks ago. He says he can't do more than 7,500 steps. So there's no point me trying to find where he's going to get an extra 2,500 steps. So literally what you just said then, 7,500 steps, but he's got a bike in his house. So he can commit to doing 30 minutes on a bike. But that's just like a non-negotiable now. So like
Yeah.
that is a step count. Like I'm not going to, if I increase his bike work, that's theoretically like increasing his steps, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So again,
Mhm.
it's just thinking outside the box because he didn't have time to go out and walk because of the work, the job that he does. So
Exactly.
it's again, it's just thinking outside the box and it can't be as conventional, as restrictive as what a bodybuilding prep can be, where there's no excuse if you're going into that. If you're going to a prep, you need, because Nathan was doing 15,000 steps at one point, like I think maybe even a little bit more at one point within his diet. So it's like, but Nathan won't miss that. And at the end of the day, if Nathan said I couldn't do that, we probably the answer is like, well, you're not going to get as lean. So Nathan will do everything he can to make sure he hits them steps, whereas
Mhm.
most people don't live by them rules.
Yeah, like, it's another thing as well. Like, if you are a bodybuilder or if you are a coach and you will go more extreme, just remember that your clients won't go as extreme as you.
Yeah.
Or not all of them will, should I say? I'd probably say maybe what would you say, Ali? 10 to
Oh,
20% of them might
but
do.
most Gen Pop clients don't need to.
No, they don't need to,
Yeah.
obviously, but it's kind of like remembering that that they don't need to and that they probably won't.
I think this is probably the best thing. Like most bodybuilders are psychotic. Like they're on the spectrum to some degree because like what you do within the gym, how you prep your food, how you live, like you go out and you do morning steps and you're very, very robotic in the way you live your life. And I'm not saying that's not a good way to live your life because I like to live my life that way, but at the same time, that's not the norm. So
Hmm.
asking people to do something that's not the norm is very, very difficult. And as Nathan said, maybe you get 10 or 15% of your clientele who are Gen Pop, who will buzz off that kind of like sort of lifestyle. The majority of people won't like to be that restrictive. They just won't because they find it too many barriers to actually live a good quality life. Because most people are trying to get in shape to enjoy their life more.
Yeah,
Bodybuilders get in shape to look good on a photo shoot or to stand on stage naked next to 10 other people.
exactly. So in to round up, you don't be scared of pushing your clients.
Hmm.
Make sure you've got confidence, we'll say, maybe not lack of knowledge, I'll say lack of confidence around fat loss. So make sure you got confidence about fat loss, around fat loss and pushing people with fat loss. Don't be scared of telling your clients the truth. They pay you to tell them the truth. They
Hmm.
don't pay you to be the friend. Don't don't always believe what your clients say because they will withhold the truth from you, and make sure you can relate to your clients. So them are kind of the reasons in reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you need to be focusing on in terms of the 5 focuses that you need to focus on as a coach to get better results with your clients. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so guys, if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast and you want to learn out more about what me and Nathan do, please go onto our Earn Education page on Instagram and please click the link in the bio. And if you want to have a chat with us and see how we can help you as a coach, please just drop us a DM.
thanks everyone.